Today is day 50 of the podcast, and I want to return to the image that we were on where the people were thirsting in the wilderness, and God is telling Moses to strike the rock in order to provide water for the people. We looked at Exodus 17, verses 1 through 7. And I shared that as Moses received this instruction to strike the rock with his staff, that God himself was going to stand on the rock. And so we have this first image where water is provided by striking the rock, and God himself is being struck and water is released. So now I want to fast forward and take us to Numbers 20, and I'm going to start reading at verse 2. And there was no water for the congregation. This is further on in their journey. They assembled themselves against Moses and Aaron, and the people thus contended with Moses and spoke, saying, "If only we had perished when our brothers perished before the Lord. Why then have you brought the Lord's assembly into this wilderness for us and our beasts to die here? And why have you made us come up from Egypt to bring us into this wretched place? It's not a place of grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, nor is there water to drink." And do you think the Lord thought that this was the location? Then Moses and Aaron came in from the presence of the assembly to the doorway of the tent of meeting. They fell on their faces, and then the glory of the Lord appeared to them. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Take the rod, and you and your brother Aaron assemble the congregation and speak to the rock before their eyes, that it may yield its water. You shall thus bring forth water for them out of the rock, and let the congregation and their beasts drink." So Moses took the rod from before the Lord, just as he had commanded him. So far, so good. And Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly before the rock, and he said to them, "Listen now, you rebels. Shall we bring forth water for you out of this rock?" There's a turning point here. And then Moses lifted up his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod, and water came forth abundantly, and the congregation and their beasts drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you have not believed me to treat me as holy in the sight of the sons of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them." First time in Exodus 17, Moses is commanded to strike the rock. God himself will be on that rock, and God will be struck, and water will be released. This second time, Moses is commanded to speak to the rock, and when spoken to, water would be released. Moses did not treat God's word as holy. He did not follow specifically the way he was instructed. And so Moses is denied the privilege of going into the promised land and taking the children of Israel in, because he did not regard the Lord as holy on this point. This is, we're going to pick up the fulfillment of this illustration as we look tomorrow. But God has laid out a picture in the Old Testament of being struck once, and then the second time it's speaking will release God's provision. Now, God still provides water. He doesn't deny them the water necessary, but the image is marred, and so there is a consequence for Moses. I want to ask you this question. What are you thirsty for? How are you making your thirst known? What have you been doing to quench your thirst?